Flying solo tonight. No producer, no guest host, no editor, and no but the audience watching me. Who will help me when it all goes wrong? If it goes wrong, if it goes wrong. Or will it be IMP soon? Flying solo at 8 p.m. tonight on the order paper baptized.
And welcome to tonight's Order Paper podcast. Welcome back.
Hey, good to be back.
Yeah, it's been a fun, interesting week.
How did you survive last week, by the way? Because I was just so busy. I was just so tired that I couldn't even watch the show. I was just like,
I don't know, but I actually had Kiwi-Birb message me saying it was literally like very fast, very straight to the point. She rated it as one of the best solo Order Paper podcasts we've ever done.
You mean being the only one?
Yeah. She said it was like straight to the point. I don't know how I managed to pull it off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's obviously that you had a mindset about what you were going to talk about, and you just went for it.
ChatGPT was great at sitting there breaking down the speeches.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yes, I did have to use quite a fair bit of tools. Had to explain some interesting things. That's right. Hopefully today someone sits there and explains to Paul Goldsmith what the pie tax is.
The pie tax?
Yeah.
What on earth is the pie tax?
The pie tax, common revenue source, is the gain on investments on KiwiSaver funds, including capital gains.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the pie tax. So, you know how Labour's announced their policy about the capital gains tax?
Yep.
And Nationals just literally spouting off things that just aren't completely true or relevant on it. Well, Paul Goldsmith misled the public on Herald Now on Friday with Deborah Russell, who's a tax expert who has a PhD in tax. You know, how boring, but hey, great. And he said, but KiwiSaver is exempt from capital gains, and Labour's things will sit down there and make KiwiSaver plans be subject to capital gains. But reality land is, if you've got a KiwiSaver account, when you have an increase in investments, you pay the pie tax. Which now, what is now? I will head on to IRD. Was it what is known as the pie tax?
Yes, please. Yeah, because basically, folks, I've been so busy over the last week, just like doing crazy stuff from chopping down trees, chopping up trees, going to weddings, getting drunk, laying down hangi, and it's been a wild week for me.
Yeah. Okay, so let's break down what the pie tax is called. And it's called portfolio investment entities. So every investment is through investment schemes like KiwiSaver or private superannuation schemes are subjected to the pie tax.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells you exactly what are the things going in there and different things to deal with it. But effectively, if you have a KiwiSaver and you have returns on investment on KiwiSaver, beware, your contributions are exempt from the pie tax because they pay another tax called the employer superannuation contribution tax. So don't worry, if your KiwiSaver increases by contributions, those increases aren't subject to the pie tax. Only the increases subject to your returns on investment. But your contributions are subjected to ESCT, which is employer superannuation contribution tax, which is also contributed on there. So yes, it's amazing what is not subject to that. I mean, put it this way,
So you just lied.
Yeah, pretty much. I think Paul Goldsmith doesn't understand. I mean, if he didn't lie, he really just doesn't understand how things work.
He's got an entire staff of researchers and stuff, doesn't he? I'm pretty sure every politician's got a staff.
I was going to say, yeah, well, I think you have. I think if you're a list MP, you have at least one, and if you're an election MP, you have at least two. If you're a minister, you tend to have a staff member for every single portfolio you hold.
Yes.
Who knows?
Oh, I didn't look into that.
Yeah. Oh, and would you like to guess who came to the coffee cart yesterday?
Oh, let me guess, Julian Genter.
Yeah. How did you know?
She likes coffee.
She didn't buy any, though.
No, she just likes talking to people.
Yeah. That is so true. Yeah.
She likes coffee carts. What can I say?
So she goes to multiple coffee carts around the electorate. Good on her. Good on her. Yeah. I went to find out the ins and outs on what happened with Manama's bill.
Yeah.
Of being discharged, and she sits there and believes it was foul play.
Oh, okay.
She believes it was foul play because Manama was only gone from the house for 2 minutes.
Yep.
And it was enough to call the end of the debate and force it to the fact that she was missing in action by 20 seconds.
Now, was this the right to repair bill, or which bill was this one? Oh, really?
Yes. So for those who are watching on YouTube, we actually have a
reason
poll at the moment. Was the discharge of Manama Davison's Consumer Guarantees Right to Repair Amendment Bill foul play?
I think it was stupid. Yeah. I think it's probably New Zealand First trying to wiggle their way out of it.
Well, it's a believed act in national where the contributed to it. But yeah. But interesting enough, as a result, Julian Genter's bill hit its first reading. Okay, it didn't get through. But it's quite interesting. She said they had anti-coal mining protesters or people at Parliament that day, and they all went home not expecting the bill to be read that night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Great things you find out from your local MP.
Yeah.
I mean, put it this way: will Mike Butterick go to that same level?
No clue.
Yeah. So, shall we get on to our first speech from the Honourable Julian Genter, MP for Rongotai, including the Chatham Islands?
Yes.
The ayes. on Coal Mining Amendment Bill be now read a first time. I nominate the Environment Committee to consider the bill. Madam Speaker, firstly, I have to acknowledge my very dear friend and colleague, Honourable Eugenie Sage, who was in this House as an MP for 12 years, as a Minister, Minister of Conservation, Associate Minister of Environment, someone who has always championed our conservation estate and done amazing work to ensure that those places are protected. Not to mention creating huge numbers of jobs and community resilience through the Jobs for Nature. She was here tonight in Parliament, and I was at an event, which I'll get to in a minute. But I just wanted to acknowledge that this bill was originally drafted by the Honourable Eugenie Sage. And I hope that all members in this House, particularly those who were at the event tonight, put on by Forest and Bird and hosted by my friend and colleague Steve Abel and Lan Pham, I hope you will consider voting for this bill, because it's a bill that is absolutely essential if we want to have a livable future for our planet. And we've known this for some years. The simple maths on climate change means that we cannot have new or expanded exploration or mining of fossil fuels, particularly coal. And what this bill does is it draws that line in the sand. No new coal mines, no expansion of existing coal mines. The brutal math of human-caused climate change is that we cannot meet the targets that we must meet to get to the Paris Agreement, which all the countries in the world signed up to at the time based on the scientific evidence. You crunch the numbers, you do the math. We cannot have a livable climate if we continue to explore and produce fossil fuels, particularly coal. And we've known that for 10, 20, 30 years. And it saddens me that members in this House who no doubt have children or grandchildren or other family members, and surely they care about the future world that those children and their children will inherit, that they are continuing to live in denial of the basic reality of what we need to do to have a livable future. This evening in Parliament, some of the members here would have seen an excellent documentary that I recommend everybody watch, and that's about the Denniston Plateau. I don't know how many members here visited the Denniston Plateau. I have not had the privilege of visiting it myself, but I was extremely moved by the documentary that was put on tonight that has been produced by Forest and Bird. My colleague Steve Abel spoke very movingly about taking his son, who's 14, to visit this place. It's undeniable, the richness of the ecology there. It's actually a unique place with an irreplaceable part of our natural heritage here in Aotearoa. And I know all New Zealanders have some connection to the beautiful nature of this place. So many New Zealanders are out there spending their time manning trap lines, doing pest eradication, replanting natives, because they care about this land and they want to see nature thrive. And it's one of the things about this country. Now, I wasn't born in Aotearoa, New Zealand, but my children were, and 2 of their grandparents were, and 4 of their great-grandparents were, and everyone that in their family has some connection to this land. And that can't even compare to the connection of tangata whenua. It's part of what makes Aotearoa unique, and it's an absolute tonga that we need to protect. And I want to take the opportunity in this bill to talk about the threat to this incredibly unique place of the Denniston Plateau. What is being proposed, and I believe there's a fast-track application in, is an open cast coal mine. It is total ecosystem destruction. It would strip mine an area the size of 1,700 rugby fields. As we've heard, restoration is impossible. It's like trying to unscramble an egg, to quote the Forest and Bird speech earlier today. How could we even begin to contemplate the destruction of such a precious place in 2025? It fails, as people spoke tonight, the most basic tests. First, the environment test. Denniston is an ecological island in the sky. It is a living museum. The Department of Conservation ranks this plateau as one of the most valuable ecological sites on mainland New Zealand. It's a world of ancient dwarf forests, giant insects, and a kiwi habitat. It is the only home on Earth for the avatar moth and New Zealand's very own endangered giant carnivorous snail. And I know that a certain minister in this government would laugh and brag about causing these species to become extinct. That's how out of touch some of the government members are. They brag and laugh about the destruction of entire species.
Are they going to vote for this bill?
And the government members are probably, yeah, I wish they were going to vote for this bill. So let's talk about the economic test, because that's what's always put up. We say, oh, we have this precious place where life is thriving, a unique place that I would love to take my children to. And rather than letting it thrive, we can't afford, we need jobs, we need money, as if somehow money were something other than a symbol. It's just a symbol. We have resources. We have the ability to produce electricity without coal. So New Zealanders carry all of the environmental risks, but when the truth is we don't, this is all a lie. I'm sorry, it is a lie, this trade-off, that somehow we'll be wealthier if we destroy this place. It doesn't pass the economic test. Indeed, the cost of the runoff from the acidified water as a result of the open cast coal mine costs more for the government to repair than the royalties they earn on the mining. There's a handful of jobs. We can create jobs in other ways. In fact, we need to create a whole bunch of jobs in order to have the transition to renewable electricity, in order to have affordable, warm, dry housing, in order to have sustainable transportation, to have high-quality processed wood products that can be used in structural timber buildings. There's so many opportunities for jobs that are created by the transition to a renewable economy, and that's what we should be doing. So the Stockton mine, which is nearby, I don't know if anyone's visited the Stockton mine, it's already cost taxpayers millions to clean up the mess. So there's a cruel irony in asking a community like Westport, which is one of the most vulnerable to worsening flooding exacerbated by climate change, to look for hope in a sunset industry which is driving the crisis. It's not against the jobs that we have had or professions. It's just recognizing that we need to work together for a future that protects our unique places and creatures. It's a future that doesn't champion a volatile, boom and bust, climate-damaging industry that has let the coast down before. So to quote the Forest and Bird speaker tonight, they're putting a choice to all of Aotearoa. Do we sacrifice a priceless national treasure for short-term jobs, dubious profits that flow to offshore companies and come at the expense of irreplaceable damage to a living museum and exacerbate the climate crisis? Or do we draw a line in the sand and say some places are too precious to mine? And I think that's a very easy answer. And I encourage all the government members to watch the documentary, to go visit the Denniston Plateau, and ask themselves, is this who they want to be in 2025? Is this what you want to be remembered for? Members opposite, not you, Madam Speaker, obviously. Is this what all of us want to be remembered for? Because people will look back at this point in time in 2025 and say they could have made different choices. They could have prioritized renewable electricity instead of prioritizing profits for a coal mining company and then allowing them to destroy this irreplaceable Indigenous biodiversity. We don't have to do it. We don't have to do it. The science and the math says we cannot do it. So I ask government members here tonight to consider voting for this bill so that they can look themselves in the mirror and say they truly did stand up for positive progress, for protecting their children, all of our children, and their children's future, and all of the other life that we share this planet with.
The question is the motion be agreed to. Grant McCullum.
Okay, so.
Yep.
Anything you want to say?
I think, because I've got the link to the trailer and I've sent it to you, I think it's probably best if people get a visual idea of what Julianne Genter is talking about. It's a 2-minute clip, and I highly recommend everyone to go watch the documentary.
Okay, just a moment. Let's flick it over.
I first came up to the plateau when I was a kid. It was just this incredibly magic environment. I remember exploring it. We had creeks flowing through the sandstone pavement, beautiful waterfalls, swimming holes. It was an idyllic place. If we mine this place, we have nothing else like it in the country, so we lose that big chunk of our geological history, our story. Ultimately, this will be a 25-year coking coal resource, and after 25 years, we've lost the entire plateau forever. All of the natural values that are here now, the landscape, the biodiversity, will be lost. Coal is generally 50 metres down. For every truckload of coal that we would extract, we'd have to extract 5 truckloads of rock. The mining companies often say, what's the problem? We can rehabilitate this place. We can make it look just like it did before. It's like a carpet. You basically take the surface, roll it back, mine it, and then roll the carpet back into place when you're finished. The reality is you can never restore this landscape. It will never look like this again. All of the creeks will be affected by acid mine drainage. The water supplies for all of the local villages come off of this plateau. Many people gather food in the waterways. If we mine it, we'll have 100 years of acid mine drainage where the water is so acidic in places, no life will exist. I think it's a horrific way to treat the whenua, to treat the land. Talking to a botanist before, and she was looking at a lichen species, and it was a lichen species that only exists on the Denniston Plateau, and she burst into tears just thinking about the fact that they potentially might mine this place. You know, we could lose this species when we've only just discovered it. What makes this place so valuable, and what will make it valuable in the future, is the fact that we have untouched natural wild spaces. If we mine Denniston, we're ultimately shooting ourselves in the foot. It breaks my heart to think that we would sacrifice this for so little.
Okay, so now you see what's at stake here, right? Acidic water, right? All the government's 2004 coal earnings were spent treating the impact of Stockton Mine, right? Which is a mine that's just down the road from that, okay? And now they want to expand mining. Look, guys, I drank a lot of sake today, okay? I'm intoxicated, but even I understand that it's very important to protect these ecological sites. We've got the carnivorous fucking snail that lives up there. Look, I know Shane Jones doesn't like snails, right? Probably because he looks like one. Let's be real.
And he ain't fringe, which means don't eat them.
Yeah. No, don't eat the snails. Leave the snails alone. But anyways, I know he kind of looks like a snail, but, you know, it's just like they're very, very important for an ecosystem, and you can't get that back. There's so much mycology there. There's like fungal relationships between the rocks. So like also the very rare types of species that are very specific to that area. Same like lichen, they break down the minerals, and all the minerals gets turned into organic matter and all that wonderful stuff. And basically the coal mining just strips all of that. It just turns it to a wasteland. That's what you got. Acidic water. You can't drink that. Do you want your rates to go up? People are already talking about rates caps. Do you want to drink the acid water like you're in Fallout or something?
I mean, this is something that actually has come from Metapika Raikawa Tate about Rotorua. The average pipe life in Rotorua is decreased by waterways, is decreased by 25% because of the sulfur underneath.
Yeah.
Do you want your water assets that deliver your sewage, deliver your fresh water, deliver your stormwater to degrade at a rate of possibly 25%, could be 50%, so its lifespan is shortened considerably?
Do you want your pipes to be smashed by acid in the water?
You know, and if anyone sits there and knows, recently there was the one on their sewage pipe underneath State Highway 2 near the Melling Interchange was in a alert period for at least 2 years of it could collapse any time. And it carried all the sewage from Upper Hutt to the Seaview treatment plant. You know, that sat on there, and they had to time and find the right period where they could shut down the road or shut down a part of the road so they could sit down there and repair the pipe and put a bypass pipe in for the sewage for the 2 weeks that the repair was getting done in. Yeah.
I mean, look, I've got another report here that level of contamination not known in about 70% of West Coast sites. A lot of them are ex-mining sites, right? We don't know the level of contamination there. We don't know how much cancer is in the water.
Yeah. So,
46 kilometers of asbestos cement, freshwater pipes. Yeah, yummy. Love that.
For those who are wondering where the Denniston Plateau is, okay, so I'll just show this up on the screen. Okay, so it's in the Ballots headquarters.
I don't live there. I just live up the road. See, you can see Ikitahuna there, right? It's up there.
Okay, so we go across the Cook Strait.
On
On
the ghost ships. Don't forget, we're going over on the ghost ships.
Yep.
You know boats.
You've got that that mayor called Nick Smith.
Yep.
and then you head over to the Westport, and it is off a lovely State Highway 6, and the Denniston Plateau is by a town called was it Maimangaroa?
Yep, Waimangaroa.
Yep. So that is where the Denniston Plateau is, and it also has the historic. As a historic site. Now, if we look, by looks of what's coming on that Google Earth there, it sits there implies it might have been a cable stay for the mines.
Look where the river flows, though. It's going straight into the town.
Yeah, it goes straight into town and straight into the
ocean.
Tasman Sea.
Yep.
So if you sit and get that, you're on State Highway 50, was it 56? No, 67. Sorry. Please ignore, it's not near Palmerston North, it's near Westport. So that is effectively, where it will be happening. It's quite a bit of a trek. Now, if we go back on here, you can see some of the images that actually show,
Yep.
Wagons, all sorts of things. So I wonder if Denniston Plateau was the one that had the cable stay for the coal wagons.
Probably. I'd have to look that one up. I've never been down there myself, but
Yeah.
I do know one important fact. Yes, there's great coal down there. No, it's not worth mining up.
And Huntley Power Station cannot process it.
No, because it's they process sub-bituminous coal, and that's bituminous coal. That's the type of coal that you export overseas to be processed into steel. Steel demand here in New Zealand is down because the construction industry is cooked, and also because we can't really export a lot of that because a key transport route, the Tawhai Tunnel, has collapsed. So,
are you talking about the one that from between Westport and Stillwater?
Yeah.
No, that's been fixed.
Oh, they fixed it. Okay, all right. Well,
no, that's been open a while. It has been fixed, but it did cause problems for 6 months while they rebuilt it.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So the coal that everyone's been talking about, and we're going to see that in some of the other speeches too. The coal that everyone's talking about for energy production is not this coal that they're talking about mining up. This is the coal that you use for stuff like steel and iron. It's really good quality coal, but we don't really use it here in New Zealand. We export it. We don't use it for... This is not the stuff we're using for energy, guys.
Yeah. Okay, let's get on to Grant McCullen's speech. And according to DeepSeek, has been rated #1 for being the worst speech. Let's kick it off, Dodgy Grant.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to take the first call to oppose this bill on behalf of the government, the Crown Minerals Prohibition on Coal Mining Amendment Bill. And on behalf of the nation. I do apologise. I couldn't possibly speak for you. I couldn't possibly speak for the members over to my left here. No, I do apologise. Look, so it's interesting, I recently attended the AGM of a little group in Kirikiri called Our Kirikiri, right? And we got to the point of general discussion and so forth, and the questions started to flow. And so what do you think the main question and concern was from the people in that room? There's probably about 50 people there. No, you'd thought, mate, and being in Northland, you'd have thought, so is it all about the roads? Because, boy, we've got some rubbish roads up there. And is it going to be about the dusty roads and all that stuff? Would that be their #1 concern? Would it be? No, it wasn't. Would it be about the education system and the challenges we've had in the education system? Would it be about that? No, it wasn't. Would it be about the challenges of law and order and personal safety? No, it wasn't. I'll tell you what it was about. Their biggest concern was about power prices, right? It was about the price of the size of their power bill. And so they then proceeded to have debates about it, and I sat there and listened carefully to what they had to say about and their concerns about the price of power. And then they all said, well, you're our Member of Parliament. What can you do about it? What do you think about our challenges in this space? I stood up and I said, well, I think you just need to remember a couple of things. I said, it's about the reason that we had such high power prices is because the previous government cancelled oil and gas, which they cancelled. They put an oil and gas ban on the table and destroyed the confidence in that sector overnight. The price of wholesale power bill went up by doubled. The wholesale power price doubled overnight, right? That's what happened. The truth is clearly hurting some on the other side of the house, clearly hurting people. And so where do we end up? And so one of the reasons we then end up with, and they had this big plan. They said to double to stop oil and gas and coal and all that stuff. They wanted to get rid of it all. And that's and come to a place where we have all renewable energy. Well, actually, that's what we all love is renewable energy. That's great. But you need to transition. This is the problem. They came out with a big announcement and had no plan. There was no plan. So consequently, suddenly, we became the only country in New Zealand, in the world, the only country in the world that is, instead of transitioning to renewables, we're going away from gas to coal. And what impact does that have on climate change? Right? Look at it. It's obviously a trigger word. Coal is clearly a trigger word. Gee, they're really excited on the other side of the house, aren't they? And so we're in this situation because it was a typical sort of spur of the moment, irresponsible announcement, which led to a situation where suddenly the confidence went and power prices went up. And why'd they go up? Because we ran it. Suddenly we had to start bringing in coal to cope with the fact that we had a shortage of energy. A shortage of energy at crucial times in the winter. Because guess what? It didn't rain. Unfortunately, it didn't rain, the wind didn't blow, and the sunshine hours were shorter in the middle of winter. And that is what happened. So the power price went up. And so what were the consequences of those power prices going up? Well, why don't you go and ask some of the people in the central North Island of New Zealand that saw the mills close, the timber mills and all that closed, and the jobs disappear. Rural, small town, regional communities destroyed. Why? Because people on that side of the house did think they had this idealistic view of the world, that you could fix the world by ignoring the fact you actually need energy at an affordable price. And there we go. There they go. They're going again. They're quite excited tonight, aren't they? Quite excited. Go and ask the people of Nelson, who've recently been through similar experiences. 2 or 3 big businesses have laid off staff and reduced. Why? Price of energy. Once again. This is what you get from people who have this idealistic approach without a plan. Well, guess what? We have a plan. And unfortunately, because of what the last lot did, it does involve using some coal. Now, wouldn't it be better, and gas, yes, thank you, Minister, and wouldn't it be better if we were to use coal that we had in our own country, rather than importing it? Because that's what we're doing. Indonesian coal. Here it comes by the shipload into this country, and there we go. And we happen to burn that while we try and transition, while we build more solar, while we put up more wind farms, like we're doing Northland. We're doing a lot of that in Northland, which is absolutely fantastic, right? So that's why we do that. We've got to burn coal. So why don't we just burn our own? This bill will stop us. According to this bill, it will stop us doing that. And that would be and that would actually be worse for the climate. There we go, they're all worried about climate change, and yes, so are we, but we're more sensible about it. We actually have a plan. We have a plan, and we're pragmatic. That's exactly right, Minister. And that's what we have to focus on. We have to focus on delivering in this space, right? Because if we don't have a plan, then you plan to fail. And the last lot, well, they certainly plan to fail. We all saw that. And so we have a huge pile of coal there that we're importing from Indonesia. What a complete waste of our own resources, right? So we are saying to the rest of the world, look, here we go. We won't dig up our own land and use our own coal in the meantime. No. We'll bring it from overseas and let someone else dig it up. We've got better opportunities in this country. Look, do that properly than some of the countries we might import from. And I think it's really, really important to remember that. So what are the other implications of this policy, right? There's also the job aspect. Why don't we make sure we give our own people in this country jobs working at the moment while we have to transition, while we transition to renewables, which is where we all want to be? Why don't we actually use our own people and develop our own, expand the mines we've got in New Zealand to actually use that coal and employ our own people so that our own communities benefit from it in the meantime, right? While we do the big transition, because it's the idealistic nonsense you get get from people on the other side who don't understand without the implications of making these sorts of decisions. Okay, so in summary, this bill really is. It really is a typical idealistic, simplistic approach to a complex problem. All it will do is help drive up power prices, make the climate worse. It won't reduce our impact on emissions in this country. It'll make it worse because the coal's got to be imported. And so therefore, why don't we at least do it in New Zealand, where that means it's closer to us, therefore we have less emissions getting it here to use. Ultimately, no, do we in the end want to use coal? Of course we don't. So what we will do is we will eventually use gas, because that will make a big difference if we use gas. We've got off the coast of Taranaki. Won't it be great, David McLeod from New Plymouth, if for the local people employed in your region who actually want to work and find the gas, so we can then get rid of the coal? Wouldn't that be a good thing? You'd think the old people on the side would be thinking, let's go and find the gas, because guess what? It's a much better option than actually using burning coal. So, boy, we've got them excited. It's like a trigger word on the outside of the house. It's like a real trigger word. But look, in all seriousness, if we're going to transition, let's do it properly. Let's plan. Let's build renewables, because that's what we can do in this country, and we'll do a damn good job of it. I do not commend this bill to the House.
I mean, what does Grant McCallum sit there and think? We're going to sit there and burn West Coast coal in power plant?
He was coal from the Waikato. He wants to expand mining up there. But look, here's the thing, right? We had a plan. I can't speak on Labour's. I can't speak for Labour, but I know the Greens. The plan was to get solar panels on people's roofs. Was to do community-based power programs and also, and help people transition over to low-energy forms, of technology. Getting solar panels on people's roofs would have helped a lot, and the technology is already there.
Given the green light to be built near Greytown.
Not to mention, you got Grant up there go, what about the gas drilling off of Taranaki? It's like, look, you scared away a bunch of investors who wanted to do a windmill farm off the shore of Taranaki. Have we forgotten about that? You've scared away, Hyundai, from having those wonderful ships. That was part of Labour's plan to lower.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure who did worse. What do you call it? The Trump administration shafting Hyundai in Georgia, or Project IREX by Nicola Willis?
Yeah, that would have been a great way to reduce our emissions, considering that a lot of our emissions actually come from transport.
And actually, funny enough, going by Grant McCullen's idea of shipping coal from the west coast to Huntly, you might have to put it on the ferry. The quickest way to sit there and get it by rail.
Yep. Clearly we're getting enough sun. If people want to invest in solar farms in New Zealand, right? We're getting enough sun. We just need a place to store the energy, and we need wind, and we need hydro. And why are the hydro dams so low in water? It's because of climate change. We've been in a fucking drought.
Yeah.
How's burning more coal going to help with that?
It's not. It's not
going to make the problem worse.
I mean, put it this way: if they went to burn the coal from the west coast and Huntly, it wouldn't work anyway because the power plant ain't designed for it.
No, they can't burn that. So we're exporting most of our high valuable coal anyway. So he's out here going, it will make jobs. And like, jobs where?
Yeah, at what, Lyttelton Port?
Yeah, jobs where? The port properly. The port's not big enough for the ships. Like, port where? And also, it's like, there's just so much to unpick here. I'm still kind of intoxicated, so I couldn't write down everything. But it's just, he's out here going, we need a sensible transition. Yeah, Labour had one. That hydro dam project was pretty cool. Why did you cancel it? The battery down the South Island, that was pretty dope.
Yeah.
Also, companies like Fonterra are moving away from coal. They've just. Why is the prices of energy going up? Well, it's because the private companies want to make a profit. That's why. It's very simple.
Yes, and what happens when you got a natural monopoly?
Yeah, we got a monopoly of power production. You sold off the shares to Meridian and all sorts of other publicly owned companies. It's like, what was it now? Meridian Energy had half of its shares sold off.
Yeah.
It used to be 100% publicly owned, but National sold that off. So profits have to be made for the shareholders. So
yeah, not good for the community.
Yeah, not great for the community. So, yeah, I don't know what Grant's going on about. I'm intoxicated. He's not. Why the fuck do I make more sense than he?
So certainly true. Okay, we're going to get what was rated as #1 best speech. Dr. Deborah Russell, who probably also knows more about pie taxes and employer superannuation contribution taxes than Paul Goldsmith.
Honourable Dr. Deborah Russell.
I think after that stand-up comedy routine, I'd like to bring some serious analysis to this debate. And some very serious analysis to this debate. I'm going to, Grant McCallum's a nice guy, but I'm going to overlook that rather facile analysis of the energy supply in this country. We do need an energy plan in this country. We do need an energy strategy in this country. We do need one that is based on renewables. The reason that power prices have been so high is because there are so many unbuilt but consented renewables available to us, wind farms that could have been built. There is a huge opportunity to go to solar power. In fact, interestingly, we don't actually need coal for thermal power in this country. We could easily do it with renewables if we went and built them. We can do solar, we can do wind. There is a need still, in some cases, for coal for process power, that's a recognised need. But the interesting thing is that the International Energy Agency has said two things about coal mines. The first is that if we are to meet net zero emissions by 2050, we simply must have no new coal mines or extensions of existing ones. That's from the International Energy Agency. Now that's kind of interesting because they've always had this focus on energy ensuring a secure supply of fossil fuels. But not only have they said that, the International Energy Agency has said that the decline in fossil fuel demand is so significant that no new investments in coal projects are required beyond those which are already committed as of 2021. We do not need new coal investment anywhere in the world. We simply do not need, and that includes, Mr. McLean, it does include coking coal. So this is actually a conversation we do need to have in the New Zealand context. Why would we carry on mining coal in New Zealand when there is no need for coal for process energy in New Zealand? When there is, when we do not need to mine it, when there's no need for coal for thermal energy in New Zealand, energy that can be created through renewable means. That's the first serious conversation that we could have in the context of this bill. What we do about our energy supply. There is a second serious conversation that needs to be had in the context of this bill, and that is what we do as we move away from extractive industries like coal mining with respect to jobs. Now, people talk in terms of the just transition, but let's catch up what that actually means. It means protections for workers, it means training for workers, it means ensuring that there are good, well-paying jobs that people who currently work in coal mines can transition to, very much preferably in the places where they already live. That's a conversation that I think we need to have in the context of this bill. If we're going to say no new coal mines, no extensions to coal mines, what then of the people who work in those coal mines? And we do need to have that conversation about the just transition. And in fact, this is very much a bottom line for Labour. How do we manage those workers? How do we ensure that their jobs are protected? Not the jobs they are doing currently, but that we find, as I said, good, well-paying jobs that speak to their skills, that speak to their homes, that speak to their sense of identity, that give them a place of standing. That's what we need with a just transition. So the Labour Party is going to vote for this bill, because we want to have that conversation about energy in New Zealand, because we want to ensure that we do make a move towards renewables, because we want to have that conversation about jobs for people who are engaged in those industries. So on those grounds, we are supporting this bill and we'll be proud to cast our votes in favour of it.
Yeah, that was a very mature response from Debs. But yeah, the bill that Julie and Jetta put forward, it's about banning all new applications for prospecting, exploration, or coal mining permits from January 1st, 2025. Now, that means that any coal mines, it doesn't mean the coal mines that were approved before that date are going away. They're still working, they're just not expanding or searching for more coal, right?
Yeah.
So the coal will still be there. We'll still have enough coal to transition over to renewable tech, which we need to do urgently. Okay? So everyone that's scaremongering going, the coal's going away. No. The coal is still there. It's still going to be used. It's just we're not exploring for new coal. Because we don't need to.
Yeah, okay.
But also, I just want to bring up another point too. I looked at the Paris Agreement, and we signed up to that under the John Key government. And I'm just going to quote John Key here. New Zealand wants a deal that puts the world on a pathway towards limiting global temperature rise to no more than 2 degrees Celsius. Every country needs to contribute towards this goal. While New Zealand's emissions are small on a global scale, we are determined to make a strong contribution to the international effort. That's why we have set ourselves a target of reducing greenhouse gas emissions to 30% below 2005 levels by 2030. That's what John Key said. And now this national government's like saying, oh, that's woke. Everyone's getting triggered. Go tell that to John Key.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to rated as the third best speech from Simon Court Burnett.
Simon Court.
Madam Speaker, Julianne Genter's bill would make energy scarcer, prices higher, and New Zealand weaker. She says it's a climate plan. I say it's a plan to manufacture energy scarcity and that it's frankly immoral. From 1 January this year, apparently, her bill would slam the door on any new coal mines and expansions on existing mines. Not one more tonne of good, clean black coal from a clean, safe local site. Not one more efficiency upgrade. Not one more dollar of regional investment, Willie Jackson. A hard ban. A full stop. That's a policy of deliberate scarcity, Madam Speaker, dressed up as virtue. Now let's talk about what she refuses to. Real people. The shift worker on the nightline at the steel mill at Glenbrook. The dairy processor in Southland who's responsible for cleaning out the vats. And the family in Flatbush who just wants the lights on and a heater running on a frosty winter's night, Willie Jackson. Tell them to tighten their belts, Jackson, while we strangle our energy supply. That is not leadership, Willie Jackson. It's an elite fantasy where other people pay your power bill. Energy poverty isn't an academic talking point. It's a child doing homework in a cold house because Parliament decided to grandstand. And that's what we had from Labor and the Greens for 6 years. Not all coal is the same. Our West Coast coking coal is amongst the best in the world. It's simply too valuable to burn. That's why we export millions of tonnes of it to India, South Korea and Japan. It's a critical ingredient in steel making and chemical manufacturing. It's what life runs on. Hospitals, tubing, transmission towers, wind turbine masts, EV bodies, bridges, even the things in our homes are all made from coking coal, Steve Abel. Until there's a truly scalable, affordable alternative for primary steel making, coking coal is all we've got that keeps us living in a modern society. And when it comes to keeping the lights on, physics beats politics every day. Because hydro needs rain, wind needs wind, solar needs sun. And when they don't show up, New Zealand still needs reliable and affordable energy, and that is in the form of thermal coal. And that's why Acton government is fixing what matters. We've given coal and gas-fired power stations the same one-year priority as renewables under the amended Resource Management Act. A consenting pathway is important for firming energy so when all those other renewables aren't available, we can keep the lights on and the factories running. We back building 1 million tonnes coal stockpile at Huntly to keep Auckland and the Waikato safe from blackouts and brownouts, and we back locally mined coal in Southland and the Waikato, because importing more coal from overseas while banning efficient domestic supply is economic and environmental nonsense. Ship miles and lower standards don't cut emissions, they raise them. And here's the kicker. The member says her ban protects the environment. I say it does the opposite. Prohibiting modern, monitored, higher standard mining here shifts demand to jurisdictions with lower environmental standards, longer shipping routes and higher emissions. Bans don't lift standards, they outsource responsibility, and now they've all gone quiet on the opposition benches, haven't they? The responsible path is to demand excellence in our mining operations here at home, to rely on engineers, scientists and ecologists to design smarter mine plans, to avoid sensitive areas where practical. Maybe the Denniston Plateau is one of those. Minimise footprints and restore land where the job is done, and hold operators to account with tough compliance, transparent monitoring and real enforcement. But that is not an outright ban. That is not an outright ban. This bill also kneecaps regional economies that have powered New Zealand for generations. The message to the coast, to Southland, to the Waikato: thanks for your service, now shut up shop. Here's a pink slip with a pat on the head. That's what they call a transition. ACT stands for energy security, for responsible mining, for world-class environmental practice, and for a transition to a future that is affordable, that is reliable and on New Zealand terms. Madam Speaker, ACT will not support this bill.
Team Yarbuckle.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's just a nicer version than what Grant said. But it's pretty much just the same speech. It's just got a bow put on the top. Everything he just cited was anecdotal. Where are the reports? Where are the reports? Like, yeah, I'm not disagreeing with him that our steel down the South Island is actually really good quality. It is.
Yeah.
But the problem is that the cost of getting it out of the ground and exporting it outweighs the cost of cleanup, and we've seen that with the Stockton mine. You know, all of the government's 2004 coal earning was spent treating the damages, right? We've got a real problem in this country with underinvesting in green technology and renewable tech. You know, this government has cut funding to a lot of that, and including the universities that could research that stuff. So and scared away investors. They've scared away the windmill farm that was going to be set up off the coast of Taranaki, the offshore wind. We scared them away because of gas. The gas from where? From Shane Jones' mouth? I don't know. Like, come on. It's like, why are we importing tons of coal? Why is it cheaper for companies to import coal rather than for them to go mine it in the Waikato? Why? You know,
I can tell you the one of the coal mines in Huntly is no longer, like, it's that much no longer. It's even got rid of the railway line that was there. Like, it's been ripped up.
Mm-hmm. Like, our demand for coal is actually going downwards. I looked at the stats. The trajectory is going downwards, and it's gone down quite sharply since 2021. You know, you've got this little downward thing that's happening. Because a lot of companies, a lot of industries that utilize coal are now switching over to more renewable, sustainable tech, you know, like Fonterra.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not using coal.
Yeah.
Like, residential areas don't use as much coal as industry. And there's a way we can subsidize that. There's ways we can help energy resilience for houses and communities and whatnot, and it's by setting up solar panels, by having a subsidy. You know, like the clean car discount. Yeah. We can do that with solar panels.
Yeah.
Solar panels are getting pretty efficient now too.
Yeah, it's quite scary. Yeah. So, should we go to what DeepSeek rates the third worst speech of the debate? Jamie Arbuckle.
Madam Speaker, I rise on behalf of New Zealand First to speak in opposition to the Crown Minerals Prohibition on Coal Mining and Amendment Bill. And it's apologies, Madam Speaker, we actually had a speaker in the Honourable Shane Jones that was really looking forward to this bill, and unfortunately, being away on parliamentary business, cannot speak to this tonight. But, Madam Speaker, why would you want to put this in the ballot? And unfortunate for Julianne Genter that this has been pulled out in this form to be debated. Madam Speaker, this bill is talking about a blanket ban. It's talking about no more coal mines. It's talking about no expansion of existing coal mines. We should be talking about energy security in this country. We should be talking about how this would stifle economic growth. And we've already had from the opposition in the gas and oil ban how economic growth in this country was stifled under that announcement. This government on this side and on the government parties, we're talking about an agenda of growth, and we need energy sources. Also, we are not talking about the uses of coal. The use of coal, obviously, for energy production, but we're talking about things like steel production. We're talking about things like cement production. They're all things that go into buildings and into construction of buildings. And that's another issue that we have in this country, and other industrial processes that coal is used for. So when I travel to the West Coast, and about 5 or 6 weeks ago gave a speech in the general debate on my trip to the West Coast, when I'm on the West Coasters are telling me, we want these types of industries, we want jobs, we want regional development. And from the mayors on the West Coast, what I'm hearing from the opposition isn't what I'm hearing on my trips away from when I'm speaking with those people in those communities. This bill is, as I say, New Zealand First believes we should be open for business. So actually promoting the mining industry, we are actually saying we are open for business here in New Zealand. We are wanting investment, we're wanting to attract investment. What I can't understand, Madam Speaker, is we are still bringing Indonesian coal into this country, and I just googled over 750,000 k's away, nearly 800,000 kilometres away. We are in places on the Waikato near Huntly, 10 k's away, and we've got coal sources. Why are we doing that? Why are we not using our own natural resources that are here that we can use instead of importing inferior coal from other sources in the world that is a dirtier, more unreliable resource when we've actually got that here in our own country? We also don't talk enough about the amount of our climate here and the amount of 0.17% is our emissions. 0.17% is the emissions that we are producing here in New Zealand. Why aren't we talking about countries like China? Why aren't we talking about the US? Why aren't we talking about India, where all these other emissions are happening, but we want to, and the opposition is shouting out, but you want to shut us down, you want to close our businesses down, you want to skyrocket residential power prices, just on an ideology that for some reason we are going to save the planet by not having some coal mines here in New Zealand. It's absolutely farcical. People are laughing at that type of this ideology that is coming from the opposition parties. We also heard about the International Energy Agency and how they're going to be frowning on New Zealand. Are they going to be coming to save our residents? Are they going to be coming saving New Zealand businesses when the lights go off? Where is the Paris Agreement when the lights go off here in New Zealand? We need to be resilient and looking after our resources and using them while we can here. Madam Speaker, I don't commend this bill to the House.
Oh, that was the same as the last speech. Okay,
Yeah,
Jamie.
don't ask me how Jamie's one ended up being ranked the third worst, while Simon's was the third best.
I don't know, maybe because I've used different language. I don't know. It's the same argument. It's like copy, paste, repeat. Yeah, oh, shit. Okay, so he talked about a couple of things. Energy security, stifling economic growth, steel production. The problem is that the lack of demand for construction here in this country, that's what's really impacted steel production. It's not the lack of coal. We've got plenty of coal. And also, we're talking about new coal mines being banned. We've still got plenty of coal in the current coal mine that we can use to steel. But yeah, the demand for steel here in New Zealand is inconsistent because government goes in, government comes out, government goes in, government comes out, can't make up its mind. Yeah. What did we want to build? What cancel building project? Blah, blah, blah. Same shit, different year. New Zealand coal, we're just more expensive. I mean, what company is going to go, yep, we're going to mine New Zealand coal and we're going to jack up the prices of energy?
The interesting part is the fact that Solid Energy has pulled out the Denniston Plateau. They shut it down in 1995.
Yeah.
The Solid Energy is Solid Energy still a state-owned enterprise? That will be the big question: is Solid Energy? Yeah, is Solid Energy still the state-owned? It's still a state-owned enterprise. That's part I'm unsure of, is if Solid Energy is. I'll just actually check that up on.
All right, I'll just carry on yammering away then. But, again, it's cheaper to import. If we started mining for lots of subbituminous coal here, right, prices of energy are going to go up. That's not going to help the consumer. what is going to help the consumer is investing in things like solar, which is cheaper. You know, it takes decades to get a new coal mine online.
Yeah.
Because you've got to do prospecting and all that stuff. But, you know, getting a solar panel put on someone's roof, cheaper. So, and then he goes on, what about India? What about China? What about America? Well, I can tell you about America. They're fucking cooked. What about India? They're doing their best with the resources they have.
Yeah.
China is actually leading the world in green energy production right now, including research into green tech. So, you know, saying, what about China? China's like, come at me, bro. I'm already doing my part. I'm already transitioning away from coal.
Yeah, yeah. And for what Paul Cook has made on there, and I've just come across it as well, Solid Energy went into liquidation in 2016. So,
Was that international?
Yeah. And,
wow.
I mean, well, interesting enough, one of the mines that Solid Energy actually bought was Pike River after Pike River Mines went into liquidation over the explosion.
Yeah, I mean, why the fuck are we even talking about mining? It's one of New Zealand's most dangerous industries. Why do we want to do more of it?
I mean,
It's like
we
forestry
don't
as
even
well.
have mine inspectors. We put it this way.
Yeah.
I mean, that was half the problem. Like Pike River, we got down to one mine inspector in the country.
Yep.
Because what was her name? Kate Wilkinson was the Minister of Labour at the time, and was under the leadership where MB was forced to reduce the number of mine inspectors that we had on the books from 3 down to 1.
Yeah. The National Act, I can't say the same for New Zealand First, because sometimes they're actually okay. But National Act especially are all in favour of deregulation, and they're all in favour of making industries more dangerous to work in. You know, saying that as someone who's come out of forestry, you know, that's one of New Zealand's most dangerous industries. Mining, I'm claustrophobic as fuck. I cannot imagine being stuck underground in a mine with dangerous equipment. And it's like, yep, we're going to get more people in that industry. It's like,
Yeah.
and we're going to make it more dangerous because apparently making things more dangerous and deregulated makes things cheaper, even though it doesn't, because you got to pay for more in healthcare and all that other fun stuff.
Yeah. Now, rated as another worst speech, Willie Jackson.
Have you got any more kapunas? I mean, you know, just a very sad speech, but sums up the other side very well. Grant, the member there from the north here, Grant, I always forget, what's your last name, Grant? Oh, that's right. You made such an impact on me, I forgot your last name. But, you know, very, very weak speech, because as he well knows, Madam Speaker, his dear friend Matua Shane Jones was a huge supporter of the Labor government and the ban on new oil and gas. And no, he didn't see the light. Madam Speaker, it is, they can laugh all they like, but he's there in front of the cameras, smiling away, saying, yes, Jacinda, I support you, I love Labor. He's there, it's a fact. It's a fact, and he can deny it all he likes and all his nonsense in the House. But we all know in old New Zealand, oh, there he is, the mayor over there, another Wellington. We've got a good Wellington mayor now, haven't we? Fabulous. But, you know, this lot over here, up and down. And here's the other thing, Madam Speaker. Winston Peters, the man who should still be Deputy Prime Minister, he supported the ban on oil and gas exploration in 2018. So, yes, he did. He was 100% behind it. So I asked the question, how can we take this other side seriously tonight? But when their coalition partners backed us, the Greens, Labour, Māori Party there, I don't know if they were quite there, not in 2018. Were they there? No. Well, they should have been there, I don't know. But the reality is Winston Peters and Shane Jones backed us 100%. And the other side knows this, Madam Speaker. And the reality is they national back us too, because the ACT Party, as we all know, are climate change deniers. That is well recorded. David Seymour was caught out on Q&A. He tried to deny it, but Jack Tame came up. No, he said, you are deniers. You've been deniers for years and years and years. And the reality is you've opposed the Paris Agreement, repealed the Zero Carbon Act, abolished our Climate Change Commission. The ACT Party doesn't care about this kaupapa, Madam Speaker. And so I want to say, where's our member gone? She still don't want to congratulate her. Well, she was a wonderful minister in this area for her courage. It takes Madam Speaker, it takes courage. I want to meet to you, Julianne Genter, for your courage, your bravery, and putting up an alternative. And she's trying to be nice to this useless lot on the other side, Madam Speaker. She's trying to be nice and reasonable. She hasn't always been nice and reasonable to them, and I can understand that. I can understand that. Yeah, well, he deserves a clip across the ears. But what I'm saying to you tonight, this former minister cares about the environment. She's got a history, she's got background, and she's got some courage that no one on the... I'm not really meant to say that, am I, Madam Speaker? But they are lacking, Madam Speaker, they are lacking, because you have to have some courage to do this sort of thing. You have to imagine a new world. And there is no imagination on the other side. Madam Speaker, we're full of dingbats on the other side. I knew you'd find that funny, Madam Speaker. I knew. But, you have dingbats in the government, you do. And you've got climate deniers over here who've got a history. They reject what's happening. Climate change deniers over here, they reject what the majority of New Zealanders want. So tonight, I want to meet to Julianne Genter and to my good friend Jacinda Ardern, because she was brave, she was courageous, unlike this useless lot on the other side who keep embarrassing themselves, going down in the polls. But, Madam Speaker, we know there's a move going on in terms of the leadership. Louise Upston is a candidate. I congratulated Louise Upston. We also know Erica Stanford is a candidate. I think James Meagher should go up because we want a Maori, and he's one of those Maoris, and so I put him up because he's a Maori minister, and we're training him too, Madam Speaker. But they have to get one thing, and that is courage, and they have no courage.
Members' time has expired. Tim Costley.
I think he may be more intoxicated than me. I want to see Willie Jackson at a wedding, give a wedding speech. That was on par with the kind of speech I would, give at a wedding or something. It's like, the other side, yeah. And I had to debunk Willie Jackson on this one. Shane Jones actually looked pretty sad standing behind Jacinda when that announcement was made. You can look at photos online. So it's like fake news. Okay. So I can see why DeepSeek rated that's the worst argument, because there wasn't anything there that was really relevant to the bill. But it was funny. I'll give him that. It was funny.
So Willie stand up. Willie's stand up comedy.
Hey, he stood up. He stood. I wonder, is that actually water in his glass, or is that vodka? I wouldn't blame him if it's vodka.
Oh, who knows?
Because I would be drinking vodka too if I had to sit there day in and day out, listening to the same fucking speeches. It's like, fuck it, I'm getting drunk.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to move on from the Crown Minerals Prohibition of Mining Amendment Bill. And we'll move on to something that was a little bit like, what the fuck? Excuse my language.
Oh, you went up a pitch.
Yeah. Animal Welfare Regulation for Management of Pigs Amendment Bill, Select Committee, Oral Submissions.
Rightio.
So let's kick off with this lovely guy.
That's a jump scare.
Yeah. You might remember him from an organisation called Federated Farmers.
Sorry, his last name's Hoggard, and we're talking about pigs.
It's So let's kick it off with the Minister of Biosecurity.
Are we there, team?
Yep, I'm here, Mark.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Looking well.
Why is he in his truck?
I don't know. Maybe next week he can hold Select Committee.
So we've got Minister Hoggard, is that correct now? Okay, we've jumped the shark. We're a few out. So we've got Joe, Steve Abel, Miles Anderson. Are you online?
It's just coming on now.
Thank you very much. Joe, is there anyone in your team beyond you? So it's just Joe, yourself, and Steve. There's no one else on your team on? There should be.
No, Rachel wasn't able to make this afternoon.
Okay, well, to give you guys the best benefit, I'm going to ask the Minister to keep his remarks quite short. I hope he can hear me now.
Yes.
Yep, I've got you, Mark.
Yeah, good to see you, mate. We've obviously got you for 10 minutes. We've got quorum, so there's there's the opportunity to proceed if Jo and her side is happy. There seems to be no objection. So we've got you for 10 minutes, and Minister Hoggart, if you could keep your introductory remarks pretty brief, and I'm sure the crew will have lots of questions for you.
Okay, I'll do exactly that then. I guess key point I want to make clear is the main reason for going through this process, which is extraordinarily unusual, was simply because we had to provide the industry with certainty, a transition period. Further transition was needed, which was not allowed under the Act. And so by going through this parliamentary route, it gives us the ability to provide that transition period, because these are major costs that the sector will need to bear, and it's not going to be an easy job for many of them to make these changes to their infrastructure. Hence why we need to give them, especially for the grower space, that's probably the main one, and that's why it's so important that we give them this transition period so they can make those adjustments to buildings. I'll leave it at that. That's, I guess, the key point I want to raise.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Frank. So very, very succinct. Steve Abel and Jo, launch into questions. We only have said Minister for 10 minutes, so use your time as best as you can.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, I've got a couple of questions if I can get them in.
Yes, please.
Why have you left it so late, Minister, given this deadline has been looming for 5 years? The deadline of 18th of December was well known to you when you came into the job. So why did you leave it till this very 11th hour to rush through a change?
So basically, last year was going through the discussions with the pork industry in terms of what would work and getting advice from officials. And then this year has pretty much been working through how this progresses forward. And there was, didn't want to have to go through this route, would have much preferred to do it a much more simpler and normal way, but these were the only option. And once we exhausted all other options, this was the only option left. So this is the route that we've taken. Would have loved to. I mean, I made my mind up reasonably quickly once with that consultation had happened. The rest of it's been the paperwork and drafting and all the rest of it.
Pause it there. That is really bad, what he just said there. I made my mind up after the consultation was done. Yeah, who did he consult? He consulted with pig farmers. Why didn't he consult the
consulted? Were you consulted when you were the president of Federated Farmers, or you consulted that now that you're a minister in government?
Yeah, no, he had a nice chat with NZ Pork, right? Because I'm reading through the RIS, the Regulatory Impact Statement. But he didn't consult with the SPCA or the Veterinary Council of New Zealand, right? You think those would be two important agencies to consult?
Oh, not when they disagree with you.
Yeah, no, I just spoke to a bunch of pig farmers, and I made up my mind. It's like, no, you got to consult people who treat animals for a living and who deal with behavioural things in animals.
I wonder, did he consult any veterinary coalitions at Massey University?
No, he didn't consult any universities. It's just like New Zealand Pork. I don't know shit about New Zealand Pork. I don't know if he sat down and spoke to veterinarians that work for New Zealand Pork. I don't know if there were farmers that disagreed with him and said, yep, we actually want improvements here, but they were ignored. Like, I kind of need a bit more detail than that.
Yeah. You're kind of like, what happened?
And why can't we have manipulable material legalized now? Like, for example, what is stopping farmers from going, yep, we're going to give pigs straw? Like, why do we need a transition period for that?
Have we had one? Is this like literally trying to basically stall the whole panel? I don't know,
but it's transition period up to December 2035. Why do we need to wait till December 2035 to give pigs straw?
Yeah.
What the fuck? We grow straw here in New Zealand.
Yeah, I know.
Importing it from overseas. What are we doing?
Yeah. So let's continue.
My sup on that, Mr. Chair.
Yes, of course.
So, I still don't feel that clarifies why this process that we've gone through at the Select Committee couldn't have happened, sooner. But on the point of the consultation, you've repeatedly said that you did consult with the animal welfare sector in the last year of consultation, but they are very clear that they haven't been consulted with.
No, I've never said that. I've said they've been consulted with, not by. So, they had the opportunity through the NAWAC process, and their points were very clear.
In 2022, you mean?
Process and those submissions. So it was pretty obvious where they stood. And yeah.
Just to be clear, you mean in the 2022 consultation?
Yeah, and obviously as that process went through, yeah.
So it's correct to say that in this latest proposal that you've worked closely with the pork industry on, you hadn't included...
Primarily, I've worked very closely with the MPI staff in terms of their advice, and they've been the ones doing the consultation with New Zealand Pork to find out what will work to provide a sustainable pathway for the New Zealand pork industry.
I've got one final quick question, if that's all right, Mr. Chair. How is it that even after these changes are brought into place in 10 years' time, that they will meet our animal welfare standards? A number of people, submitters, have made the point that, in fact, increasing the cage by a certain size still will not meet the bar of our Animal Welfare Act. So what advice do you have that it will do that?
Well, I mean, this is another reason why we're going through this process, is because it's important that we actually balance up
because
the
he
welfare of the
didn't
piglets.
consult
The science
with the
shows
veterinarian council.
that you have a 14% greater mortality risk, and so I'm looking at balancing not just focus solely on the sow's welfare, but also the piglets' welfare, and that's what farming's all about. It's trying to find that balance to come to the ideal outcome.
Thank you, Steve Abel and Minister. Joe, you've got a question?
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for your time this afternoon, Minister. My question for you is, what, if anything, has changed or had changed in the sector and the advice that would have been put before you when you first became the Minister, which is the same advice that was put before me when I was Minister, with several options, but quite close to an election, so it wasn't fair to make a decision that would mean that as incoming Minister you would have to adhere to that. What advice changed that has meant that you have this process has taken that much longer and you sought to kind of, I guess, re-go through that whole process? And again, might have been similar to what Steve asked, is why was SPCA left out of this round? You said that they participated in the 2022 round. Why were they left out of this round since you went through that process again?
In terms of so I'm not sure whether or not you would have had all the economic advice in front of you at the time. For me, that was, I was looking at 3 different scenarios with some really, really hefty costs for an industry. And at the forefront of my mind was, Jesus, will this industry be able to survive these costs? And so I wanted to make sure that we had ensure that we came out with a solution that would be sustainable for this industry. The risk is that even the costs we're proposing may be far too much for some. And so the key thing for me was, it's such a small industry. If we lose potentially half or a third of this industry, does it even have the critical mass to carry on in terms of slaughter space? So look, a big part of my thinking was we really needed to tease that out and make sure we had all the best information. The advice from MPI was let us go and talk to the industry and see if they could there was the NAWAC position, the MPI position, and the pork position. They wanted to try and get themselves, both MPI and Pork New Zealand, on the same page, and so that was what they went off and did. And sorry, what was your last question?
The not involving SPCA this time.
Look, I've met with them 6 times. They could have, if they wanted to raise the issue, they could have. They did it at the last meeting where I said, yep, well, I'm aware of the date and we will be improving the welfare. Obviously, it was in front of Cabinet, so I couldn't really go into any more detail at that time.
Would you accept, though, Minister, that you consulted with the pork industry itself proactively, but this was somewhat, SPCA was somewhat blindsided by this, and it wasn't, you didn't seek to engage with them specifically on this topic. It was only when they came to you, being aware that the date in December was looming. And so it would seem as if they've been completely shut out almost on purpose. And just finally, very quickly, sorry, Mr. Chair.
2 minutes left here. Thank
why
you.
10 years when it's been said that 5 years would be sufficient and appropriate for these this time to be the time frame?
Okay, so in terms of why consult very closely with the pork sector, because they're the ones impacted. They're the ones that are going to be paying somewhere between, the potential costs were $1.6 million per farm to $600,000 per farm. Those are the people that are going to be potentially put out of business or have to wear a massive cost and completely turn their businesses upside down. And come up with solutions that will work. So that was why I focused on them, because it was going to hit them the hardest. And in terms of why 10 years, well, a great example would be the business I've just visited an hour ago, where they've been waiting 7 years for a consent. These changes are going to be big changes, and they're going to need new consents, and we have an absolute mess of a system at the moment where people are struggling to get consents. So a big part of it was we need to get these RMA changes enacted and in place so that people will be able to progress through this system. What that $600,000 cost is for the infrastructure. We're seeing farmers, particularly here in Canterbury, paying $50,000 for a simple consent renewal, up to $200,000 if ECAN want to make it difficult. Now, undoubtedly, a pig farm, it's quite a complex issue. You could add on another couple of $100,000 on terms of costs if we push them to try and do it all through the current system. So part of it was, let's have the new system in place, particularly for that, and it's mainly that grower space, because that is going to be major works to rebuild sheds. I think the other things can probably be done faster and quicker, but that grower space definitely needed, or the weaner space, sorry, definitely needed that 10 years, in my opinion.
Mr. Chair, time for another quick one.
Oh, sorry, we're very succinctly, Steve Abel. We've met time, but if you can ask a question, and I'm sure the Minister will be succinct. Our 10 minutes is up.
I think the concern is, Minister, that you are the one member of the government who is responsible for animal welfare, and you've prioritised consulting with the pork industry over independent animal welfare organisations and experts in regard to an issue that is to do with meeting the animal welfare needs of farmed mother pigs and piglets, and you have not prioritised animal welfare, is the perception.
Well, I would disagree in the fact that we've had good scientific evidence that's informed this decision that does show that you will have piglet losses quite substantial, and so this is part of the change of ensuring that we get that balance between welfare. We're improving the welfare outcomes. Let's be clear, none of the countries we import pork from will be anywhere near our level of welfare. So we will have leading welfare. Yes, there's a couple of Scandinavian countries that are highly subsidised that will have slightly more generous terms, but these will be world-leading animal welfare outcomes for our pig sector, but hopefully they will still be affordable for our pig farmers to ensure we still do have a pig industry.
Thank you, Minister. We have met time, gentlemen and ladies online. Thank you, Minister, for your time. Time is very precious.
Can you put up a picture of what a farrowing crate looks like for the people that are watching this? Because we're talking about an animal, folks, that's about as intelligent as a 3-year-old child, right? And this is what we're considering to be okay to put a mother pig in when there are other viable options on the table. Like, how fucking badly do you need your bacon? Look, they can't move.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't get up and stretch. They can't turn around. Would you keep your dog like that?
Were the pigs treated better on Babe, on the movie Babe?
Yes. Look how squashed together they are. They've got no straw.
Is this what they're meant to be?
That's a lot better, but I mean, shit. I would be a lot more happier with that.
I'd rather have them outside in nature.
I reckon if you poll most Kiwis, right, and you go, okay, this is how much bacon costs. This is how intelligent a pig is. This is what they're living in. I think most people would go, yeah, I'm okay with paying a little bit extra to get a pig that's outside. I'm not that desperate for fucking bacon.
Far out. That's just fucking horrible.
Like, yeah, I mean, I in Carterton, I remember there was like a big factory. I'm going to call them a factory because it's not a farm. Look at how the animals been kept. I'm calling it a damn factory.
Well, I mean, I knew there was one that was not far in between Shannon and Foxton.
Yeah.
And
did you hear about the one that happened in Carterton though? That got set on fire and the pigs couldn't escape.
No, I didn't know about that, but far out. That's just the visualization of what you just said just sounds absolutely horrible.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, I mean, Carterton farm fire. I remember hearing about that. Absolutely horrific. And people like saying, yeah, we heard the pigs screaming.
Yeah. Oh, heck.
Because they can't escape. They're stuck in the crates.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, let's hear more.
Yep, so they gave it a Waikato as well.
Yeah. This submission is from Animal Welfare, Regulation of Management of Pigs Amendment Bill evidence. First up is Fickett's Gillian Kuhn KC. Might have that
Yep.
wrong. This doesn't seem to be the best on its information keeping. And we'll just up the speed of the clip. Here we are.
By the way, for those wondering at home, 60% of our
Thank
pork
you so much
products are
for
already
joining us this
imported.
morning.
Say again?
Yeah, for those wondering at home, I was reading through that regulatory impact statement. 60% of our pork products are already imported. So we could theoretically, say, okay, let's focus on high-value pig products that are organic and free range.
Yeah, exactly. Get a premium product on it. I mean, like we've got this mentality with certain groups of people in there of like this race to the bottom.
Yeah, and who suffers? Animals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I mean, that's
People,
just one
workers,
aspect of it.
animals.
I mean, the other aspect we had this was for years was the industry standard shifting to free-range eggs.
Yep, or barn-raised chickens, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, no, this would help.
We have you for 10 minutes as part of the submission process. And we're looking forward to your comments and opening remarks. And please, if you're kind enough to leave us a little bit of time for questions, that would be gratefully received. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, my interest in this is that I was counsel for the applicants in the 2020 judicial review case, which I did on a pro bono basis. There was a lot of work involved. We were successful in obtaining a ruling that the use of farrowing crates is unlawful. Now, I oppose this bill, and I have 8 points to make briefly in my 10-minute challenge, as well as some redrafting recommendations. But I do hope you'll also read my full submission at some stage. 1, I'm really appalled that despite the court's clear directions to the Minister and to MPI, this bill will postpone any change at all for another 10 years. And I ask, where's the respect for the court and for the rule of law? 2, the new system that will come into place in 10 years will still be non-compliant with the Act. Now, that's clearly NAWAC's view, and although there was a suggestion from the committee yesterday that NAWAC may have revised its view or fallen into line, there has been no change. NAWAC's letter to the Minister of 5 April this year needs to be read in full, not just a sentence selectively taken out of context. 3, why 10 years? In my submission, that's arbitrary and excessive. In June this year, MPI and New Zealand Pork, and I've referred to these documents in my submission, were both comfortable that, and I quote, 5 years was sufficient and appropriate. It seems that the Minister on a whim has extended it to 10 years just to match the phase-in time of the rather measly increase in grower space. To me, this is a nonsense. I ask, does he understand the Act? Does he understand his obligations under it? 4, this urgency that we now have is self-inflicted. MPI advised the Minister, and again the documents are referred to in my submission, advised the Minister 2 years ago of the power in the Act to extend the regulations for another 5 years. He did nothing. Now it's too late. And yet we see in the explanatory note to the bill and in the regulatory impact statement, a statement that this extension power has already been exercised. That's a deliberately false statement to Cabinet, to Parliament, and to the public. 5, I suggest that the time for wallowing, if I can use that word, in continuing debate about the science has surely long gone. It's been 26 years. The High Court ruled that farrowing crates are non-compliant. End of. In our High Court case, we had independent evidence from an internationally regarded expert, Dr. Emma Baxter from the University of Edinburgh. She gave uncontested evidence that the mortality rate across all farrowing systems is roughly the same. Yes, I agree that in without farrowing crates, more piglets get squashed. But with farrowing crates, more piglets die of starvation or are stillborn. The real issue for the industry, I would suggest, is one of infrastructure cost. 6, conflicts of interest. What's extraordinary in this case is that the Minister was not only effectively a consultee stakeholder in 2022, he's now the decision maker, because Federated Farmers gave a substantive submission in April 2022 when this Minister was the president of that organisation. That submission opposed all of NAWAC's suggestions, was highly critical of NAWAC, and also endorsed fully New Zealand Pork's proposals and recommended that the Minister now consult just with New Zealand Pork. There's also the Minister's, more generally, his interests in the dairy industry. I haven't seen any public disclosure of any declared conflict of interest or measures to address that, such as transfers of responsibility, blind trusts, and the like. 7.
Excuse me, Gillian, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we do have to wind up if you are capable. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I just have a few more points to make.
No, please, if you could finish those, that would be lovely. Thank you so much.
Okay. 7, ordinary New Zealanders have to observe the laws. Farmers and other kinds of livestock have to. Outdoor pig farmers have. Why not this particular industry group? We're not just talking about mum and dad farmers. Sunpork, a heavyweight player, is wholly Australian owned. It's the largest pork producer in Australasia. 8, I've suggested that the issues around this government's arrangements with Sunpork need further investigation. They want to roll out their maternity ring. It uses the same space as a farrowing crate. That's a coincidence. Of course, that would rule out NAWAC's recommendations if that is to happen. And I've raised the question whether the Overseas Investment Office consent in 2022 was a special condition of that Sunpork's new infrastructure be rolled out. I'd like to know if that was a reference to their maternity ring. My recommendations: that to address the urgency, all you need to do in this bill is to have an extension of the regulations for up to 5 years. That would do it. The matter could then continue under the Act in the normal way, preferably with responsibility given to a different minister. Another alternative, still just an extension up to 5 years, with Schedule 2 of the bill amended to adopt NAWAC's recommendations. Either option in the long term, in my submission, will lead to an outcome that is more, to adopt the minister's own phrasing, sensible, practical and affordable. Thank you.
Mark, I have a quick question.
Gillian, sorry, I apologise. These were 5-minute slots. We've met time and don't have the luxury of the time I wish we had to ask you any questions. So I hope you have a lovely day.
Mr. Chair, we are running a little bit ahead of time. Can I ask one really fast question? It's quick.
Hold on a minute. That doesn't sound right. Isn't she speaking on behalf of an organisation?
I don't know. I mean, he originally said 10 minutes, didn't he?
Yeah. I would go back to the beginning of that. Did he say 10 minutes or did he say... Because I'm pretty sure he just cut her off there saying, yep, you're speaking as an individual, you only get 5 minutes. I'm pretty sure she was representing an organisation.
Yeah, exactly. And said we have 10 minutes.
Doesn't she get 10 minutes? Yeah.
Okay.
Please, quick.
Yeah, it's just given the nature of the submission. Thanks, Gillian. My question is very quick. At the top of your submission, you said that you think the minister, the law would actually still be unlawful. Is that your legal view, that this would actually still open up legal risk for the industry?
Yes, if the proposal that's to come into force, the new regulations that are supposed to come into force in 10 days, were made by regulation in the ordinary way instead of being enshrined in an Act of Parliament, I would have another successful judicial review.
Thank you. Great answer. Thank you so much, Gillian. Thanks again. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'd have to go back over the transcript to see whether or not he actually gave her 10 minutes.
Well, no, he didn't. It was cut off at 8.5.
Weird. Okay,
it does have a personal name on here. It doesn't have a business name or on behalf of an organisation. But he did say 10 minutes, not 5. But did he just balls that up?
Yeah, okay, that's a weird one. But anyways, she brings up a lot about the efficacy of things, and that's one of the things that I'm finding quite disturbing going through this regulatory impact statement, is the lack of commentary on ethics, because we're dealing with a sentient animal here. We're not dealing with a tree. We're not dealing with coal. We're not dealing with a car.
We're not dealing with coal. I love that one. So funny.
Yeah. It's like we're talking about a sentient animal here. There's very little reference here to ethics. What's ethical for the animal? Yes. It's just like, okay, what's cost effective for the farmer? Yeah, keeping things in a cage is very cost effective. Unfortunately, it's also really shit.
I mean, actually, here's something that came out, and it's not the current submission that we've just had. It's the one from Andrew Hoggett. I think I found a great place where fast-track legislation could be used.
Yeah, improving ethical outcomes for animals?
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, get those piggies some straw, man.
Oh, God.
Insist that larger farrowing crates are required so a pig can actually get up and turn around.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Just so those know, I've had fuck all sleep today, just because of the nature of the way how this morning went.
So you've got a lack of sleep, and I'm intoxicated.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Just for those who do know that, I got home from paper at 5 a.m. this morning, but I had to be out the door at 6 in the morning to help set up for Linda's stall, and thank goodness no re-deliveries on the paper run, but I didn't get back to sleep.
yeah, I mean, look, hey, you can be bloody tired, and I don't have to be sober to understand that. Yep, pigs are sentient. Don't treat them like shit.
Yep, and just remember, the car keys stay where they belong for you, Laura.
Yeah.
And they probably should be the same for me anyway as well, because
don't worry, I'm not driving. There's nowhere to drive to.
yeah, that's true. Yes. The bowl store will be well and truly closed.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get on to our next submitter.
We now go across to Ashley O'Driscoll for 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
From car to car.
Joining us this morning. We have you, Ashley, for 5 minutes. I'm pretty sure you know how this works. You tell us what you think, and if you can allow us a bit of time for questions in your 5 minute slot, that's entirely up to you. Thank you so much.
I'd like to thank the committee for taking the time to consider my submission. I've prepared a statement that's about 3 minutes long, so a little bit of time at the end. So my name is Ashley O'Driscoll, and I'm a veterinarian and a beef farmer. I've worked along MPI as an expert witness on a large number of animal welfare cases over the past 4 years. In 2022, I was involved in an animal welfare investigation with MPI on a conventional chicken egg farm. Conventional layer cages are known as battery cages, which have been phased out in New Zealand due to the fact that these cages severely restrict a chicken's ability to perform their most normal behaviors. At the time of the investigation, battery cages had not yet been phased out, but the welfare concern in this case was overcrowding. The overcrowding situation of these chickens was successfully prosecuted by MPI on the basis that the persons in charge failed to allow hens the opportunity to display normal patterns of behavior, which directly relates to one of the 5 foundational requirements in Section 4 of the New Zealand Animal Welfare Act. In the sentencing summary, normal behavior was further defined as standing, turning around, stretching wings, brooding, and walking. Farrowing and mating crates prohibit the same normal behaviors of turning around and walking, among other limited behaviors. The usage of these crates may increase profitability and decrease piglet death, but this is not an acceptable justification for the distress experienced by thousands of sows. The standard usage of battery cages also increased profitability and decreased hen death, but the emphasis was correctly placed on removing the distress caused by the inhibition of normal movement. The extended use of crates is not in line with our values as a country, as recognized during the High Court of New Zealand ruling. The layer industry managed to phase out battery cages over a period of 5 years at a significant cost to the industry. I fail to understand why the pork industry requires a further 10 years to complete the transition away from extended usage of farrowing and mating crates. During that period, thousands of individual pigs will continue to experience weeks of unreasonable distress and frustration due to their inability to perform some of their most basic behaviors. I spend a large portion of my time ensuring that minimum welfare standards are met for various species of animals within New Zealand. The stated objective of this bill is to, quote, ensure that locally produced pork products meet good animal welfare practices. It is my strong professional opinion that a failure to provide the structure and requirements for a quick transition away from extended usage of crates is a failure to provide minimum animal welfare, let alone good animal welfare. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good submission and quite succinct, Ashley. Very grateful for it. Very quick question. As a veterinarian, would you appreciate and be willing to accept on-farm visitation where free-range pigs have disproportionately killed their piglets in farrowing? I'm struck by your rationale when we're trying to remove said risk to animal welfare, and I think you're right about the sows. I think this is something that we've really got to grapple with. But how do you square, as a professional, going on farm in a free-range environment and saying, I now see a lot of dead piglets? Do you think in your future that's something that you could come to accept if that was the case?
So I think what you're asking is, like I said, the same thing that was asked about battery cages. So the prevalence of disease and mortality is higher in situations that are not battery cages. However, that's at the expense of lifelong suffering as far as freedom of movement goes. So as your previous speaker said, it's not a huge, so I don't work within the pork industry, so I can't quote you numbers, but it's not a huge increase in piglet mortality, but I recognize that it's there. It's just not it's not justifiable for the weeks that these animals are not allowed to move. The severity of the welfare impacts are not justifiable for piglet loss. You will have piglet loss.
So very quickly, Ashley, you're saying you acknowledge that there will be an increase of piglet mortality, correct?
Oh yeah, I acknowledge that in my statement. Yep, that's well known as it was in the layer industry. Yep.
Yep. Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Very grateful. It's always lovely to have you people. I wish we could talk to you more, but we've got a whole line of people we've got to get through today that have different opinions. So thank you, Ashley. Very grateful for your time and very succinct delivery.
Yep.
And go well. Thank you so much.
God, he's such a petty boy, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, like
he's so petty. Like I was just looking at some research that was done outside of University of Auckland. Guess what? They're also saying that farrowing crates are not great. They actually have negative effects on pigs.
I mean, here's something that we can shift the focus from pets to humans. There was a standard when my grandmother gave birth to my mum that you spent 14 days in hospital.
That's right. Stuck in bed.
Yeah. They don't do that anymore.
No, because it's unethical.
It just doesn't work. You know, you can be discharged within 48 hours of being in hospital.
Yep. But it's like, but Sam, human women don't crush their babies, except they do when they lie in bed with them.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that has not been made public, but Auntie Gwen, Grandma's younger sister, spent a prolonged period in bed in Auckland Hospital and is now going to spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair.
And why's that?
Yeah, and it was partly being, stuck.
Been bedbound?
Yeah, pretty much being bedbound. Like, it has had a whole shake-up in her life. Do we, this is like one very recent example of what can happen if you've made bedbound. I mean, put it this way. Dad and I were speaking today. My dad didn't know that there's videos going around on TikTok, but then, hey, my father don't do TikTok, of Queen Mother on her 100th birthday still walking. Well, guess who I think is going to be doing that on her 100th birthday? My grandmother. Yeah. But yes, unfortunately, her sister won't be.
Yeah. And it does. I mean, we can take it back to pigs. There's actually a Swedish study. I need to go pull up that study, but it's a recent one that's just come out. But they actually found lower piglet mortality in a free farrowing situation. So the idea is like, oh yeah, if you just have these pigs running around, you're just going to have all these dead baby piglets. And I'm like, no, dude, there's actually a Swedish study that's just come out that's showing that that's not necessarily the case. And the problem is that a lot of studies that involve crates, right, comparing crates with alternatives, they haven't documented the mother's mortality. So, they go, oh, the piglets. Yeah, what about the mother?
I mean, also, here's the other thing is, does a free-range pig that gives birth, or does a pig often have multiple pregnancies that lead to multiple births? If a piglet only knows how to give birth in a free-ranging situation, doesn't that pig adapt and become more adaptive to the fact that the piglets are running around and you're not restrained in a sour crate, which in turn means that that particular mother will become more critically aware.
Yes, that is true. And it's the same with humans as well. You become more experienced as you have more children.
Yeah, but as you sit there and do that, and if you put that over time, over generations, that will evolve. I mean, like a great example in humans with the thing called the appendix. The appendix is half the size to what it was 500 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been estimated that in another 500 years' time, humans might evolve to not actually have appendixes in their bodies.
Yeah, I mean, behaviors are also passed down as well. So, when you have environments where, okay, you've got piglets that can learn from their mother and so on and so forth, they learn behaviours from them,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You know, like all animals do that.
Yep. Yes, all animals. It's not just unique to humans. I also get really disturbed by the fact that you've got a guy up here who's part of a party that calls themselves libertarian, right? And he's out there saying, nah, we should just keep the animals in cages. You know, freedom is only for humans. It's like, this is.
Yeah, but I mean,
and
you
even
know,
then,
it's the same
ACT's
way that
moving away
believes in
from
free
that.
strikes.
Yeah, that's right. And ACT's even moving away from that. They're taking steps that are going to increase the prison population.
Yeah, it's yeah. Okay, who's up next on that submitter list? We've got Danielle Duffield.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now move across to Danielle Duffield.
Kia ora.
Hello. Welcome, Danielle. It's so lovely to have you here. I believe we have you for 5 minutes, so I will leave it with you. You can tell us your thoughts and ideas, and if you would like questions, please leave a bit of time at the end.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, so thank you for listening to me today. I'm an adjunct lecturer of animal law at the University of Otago, and I've been an animal law practitioner for a number of years, including as the former president of the New Zealand Animal Law Association. And like many others who have spoken on this bill, I'm very concerned by it, I oppose it, and I have 5 points I'd like to make. So firstly, this bill completely undermines the decision of the High Court and the purpose of the Animal Welfare Act, the country's leading piece of animal welfare legislation. So as we heard just before from Gillian Coombe KC, there was a 2020 decision by the High Court in which farrowing crates were found to be illegal, and this resulted in a phase-out period, which this bill now sidesteps. And I completely echo the comments made by Gillian Coombe in relation to the concerns around the rule of law in terms of a bill completely undermining that judgment. So secondly, the real problem with this piece of legislation is it deprives the 2015 amendment to the Animal Welfare Act of its main effect and purpose. So one of the main purposes of the Animal Welfare Act is to allow animals to express normal patterns of behaviour. And prior to 2015, there was a provision in the Act which allowed, in exceptional circumstances, practices to continue, which did not allow animals to express normal patterns of behaviour. And this was routinely used to justify certain practices like farrowing crates and battery cages, which actually do not meet the obligations of the Act. And that's why Parliament amended the Act in 2015, right, and inserted this new regime under Section 183A to require non-compliant practices to be clearly phased out with strict time limits. And this bill completely ignores those time limits. And I refer you in this regard to a couple of key comments from Justice Cullen, her High Court judgment, in which she said it was plain that Parliament's intention in passing this amendment was to ensure that non-compliant practices were to be time limited to up to 10 years only and ultimately phased out, and that any extension of time was to be limited to up to 5 years once only. I also refer you to her comment at paragraph 84 that farrowing crates were explicitly given as an example of a non-compliant practice in the explanatory note to the 2015 bill, which Section 183 sought to address. So this bill is effectively saying Section 183 applies except when we don't want it to, and that's very problematic. Thirdly, this bill continues beyond 2035 practices which I think by any reasonable interpretation are unnecessary within the meaning of the Animal Welfare Act. We all know that half of pig farmers already farm without the use of farrowing crates in New Zealand, and they're banned in a number of countries like Sweden, Switzerland, and Norway, which are clearly leading ahead of New Zealand, and which obviously raises some concerns for New Zealand's international reputation with respect to animal welfare as well. And I echo completely Gillian Coombe's concerns that NAWAC, which was the government's expert committee on animal welfare, has this view, and yet it's being ignored. Fourthly, this bill has been subject to significant procedural defects. It has not been subject to a proper consultation. Now, NAWAC consulted on 2 options in their draft pig code in 2022, free farrowing or temporary crating for up to 72 hours. And public consultations are a key principle under the Animal Welfare Act. They're required, and that is because there is enormous public interest in the treatment of animals in Aotearoa. And yet these proposals as put forward in this bill have not been properly consulted, and this rushed through piece of legislation is not an adequate substitute for that. Fifthly, I'm pretty concerned by what I've seen in the news subsequent to filing my written submission, which has come out through Official Information Act request, which gives pretty strong indications of regulatory capture. Now, this is a piece of public interest legislation, the Animal Welfare Act. Its purpose is to uphold the public's belief in the humane treatment of animals, and Justice Cull, in her High Court decision, emphasised that practicality and economic impact are not the primary purpose of the legislation, and they cannot override the welfare obligations of the Act. But this bill seems to ignore that, and I am rather concerned by the influence that New Zealand Pork seems to have had on this legislation. It seems unduly large. It seems more significant than NAWAC's own impact, despite them being the key committee under the legislation for recommending animal welfare changes. So those are my main points, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Members, we have about a minute left to have questions. If Danielle would like to field any from my team, please speak up now, because we've got Danielle for about a minute. Danielle, there appear to be no questions. Thank you so much for your submission. We're very grateful for your submission. It's very succinct in your delivery. So I hope you have a great day, and thank you for your thought. Thank you for your thoughts and ideas.
Yes, thank you, Daniel, for that, because you're absolutely correct. You know, New Zealand's pork industry is made up of about 70 to 80 commercial farms producing about 600,000 pigs. About 55% of these pigs are produced in indoor facilities. That means about 45% of pigs are actually outside already, right? On top of that, we import about 60% of our pork products. So I don't know why we're doing this legislation. Why are we doing this 10 years? You know, battery chickens are treated better than this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And pigs are more intelligent.
Yeah, that's so right. Yeah, chickens are treated
So
better.
just give the pigs some damn straw and some more space, right?
Yeah.
It's not worth it. Like, I'm looking at these numbers and like, come on. 5 years. That, even for me, in my opinion, that's too long. Should have been done yesterday.
Yeah. Yes. I can see why you'd say that, yeah.
Yes, and another thing I wanted to do before we head off for tonight is read this wonderful pinned comment from Mr. Alex, who super chatted us for $10. Just letting people know, I spoke with someone from the NZTA on Friday, and apparently Petone to Grenada and Cross Valley Link has already been submitted for process through the Fast Track Approvals Act. Yes, I saw that as well.
I'm not surprised.
Now, you'd probably have more commentary. Oh, let me just keep that up. You'd probably have more commentary on that than I would, because I don't live in the area.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I don't know. Not much has changed in comments since I mentioned it last weekend when Alex brought up the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I have tried looking into this, and the consultation that they're working from is pretty old. I mean, you know...
it's had plans that have chopped and changed and all sorts of things there. I mean, this current route that they're looking at has shifted quite deviantly from their main route, but the route does seem to be a bit more cost-effective compared to the other route, because the route that they had that was on plan that led to the project being cancelled was... it was going to cost nearly $1 billion, and it's because it went straight up the valley, with a river that ran through the middle of it. Whereas this new one actually more blends into the landscape of the hills, and it doesn't use the big gully that was being looked at. It's using the next ridge over, which is and so this one will have two ranges of tunnels running. We'll have two tunnels and two at-grade intersections.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question for Mr. Alex is like, where else would you put an alternative route? Because I do think it is important to have alternative routes off of State Highway 1.
Yeah.
I did read that in the report, and it's like they did bring up the economical argument for being able to divert traffic.
Yeah, that's the big key part, considering, if you don't have the ability to divert traffic, you're screwed. And that's the problem with our city, with Wellington, is the fact that we've got so few alternative routes that you just need one route go out of action, and everything comes to a crumbling halt.
Like, I still don't know how many properties are going to be impacted by this proposal. I had a look at the maps, and it doesn't seem to be as many as what the alternative was. I don't quite have enough information to really properly sink my teeth into this one. But I don't know if Mr. Alex can provide that information as well.
If he wants to, he can just message me anytime, and he can sit there and get a link, and he can join in on the show.
Yeah, it's like, let us know how many properties are going to be impacted by this.
That seems to be a bit of his pet project. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get on to the next submission on there, which is from Fresh Pork New Zealand Limited.
Oh boy.
Thank you very much.
So take care. Have a great day. Okay, we now move across to Fresh Pork New Zealand Limited. They are for 10 minutes, and I'm not sure who I'm speaking to in New Zealand Pork, but please, by all means, launch into your submission.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Lyndon Glass. I'm the MD of Fresh Pork New Zealand, and with me is Shannon Parnham, our GM of Livestock Supply. We're obviously here to provide an oral submission on behalf of Fresh Pork New Zealand. Sorry?
No. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you were there, and we are here, and I apologise for our absence. Parliament is in recess, so I will leave it with you.
Yep, no, that's fine. No, just want to thank the Select Committee for the opportunity to submit and for your time here today, and we'll take it that our submission is read. Look, Fresh Pork is a family-owned business that has been operating for over 40 years. We currently employ about 150 people. We partner with about 20 farmers in the South Island. Most of those farmers are also family-owned businesses. Combined with our various partners, we estimate our contribution to the New Zealand economy to be more than 350 million. We're currently domestic only, and we're proud to feed Kiwis right around the country with high-quality New Zealand-grown pork. Fresh Pork New Zealand fully supports the continuous improvement of our industry, and we support regulations and standards that best enable this to happen, both now and into the future. We're in support of the proposed Animal Welfare Amendment Bill on the basis that we believe it provides the best science-based welfare position for both the sow and the piglet, along with an appropriate timeframe to make what will be significant changes for the industry. Freshport also believes that in conjunction with proposed changes, that it is critical that all pork consumed here in New Zealand must meet our New Zealand welfare standards. Today, that is not the case, with about 60% of pork consumed in New Zealand coming from other countries, most of which does not meet our current standards, never mind the new standards that are being proposed. If New Zealand wants to make the biggest improvement in pig welfare, ensure pork imports also meet our welfare standards. There's a real risk that without requiring imports to meet our new standards, that we will see more New Zealand farmers exit our industry. They simply can't compete. In doing so, we will effectively offshore the welfare standards by allowing lower welfare imports to fill the demand gap created. We're not asking to ban imported pork. What we are saying is that we need an equal playing field and strongly request that this is put in place at the same time as the new New Zealand Pig Welfare Code. We also support the need to improve our country of origin labelling on products. However, this is required to help the New Zealand consumer be better informed about where their products come from. It should not be a substitute to allow lower welfare pork to be imported into New Zealand. The last 5 years have been particularly frustrating for the New Zealand pork industry. I can genuinely say that this latest welfare code review has created significant uncertainty for New Zealand pig farmers and everyone else in the value chain, including ourselves. We've effectively been in limbo for the last 5 years, waiting for the new code to be confirmed. Farmers haven't known where the welfare code was going to land, so it's been impossible for them to make an informed call on how or what to invest in on farm. While we've heard various other submissions during this process refer to farmers having 5 years from 2020 to comply with the changes, we believe this simply is not the case. How can we expect farmers to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, without knowing what the new pig welfare code is and what they need to be doing? I'd suggest not many would do this, and banks would struggle to support funding requirements. This limbo period has stifled investment in our industry at a time when many want to invest in improvements and modernisation of their operations. This has been the same for Fresh Pork New Zealand, who is wanting to progress our plans to modernise our facilities and also become export capable. We require a well-balanced pig welfare code to provide us with long-term confidence to invest and continue to progress our domestic industry. I'll just pass over to Shannon to talk us through a little further on the details of our submission.
Sorry, gents, we have about 5 minutes left, so if you want any further questions at the end, just be cognizant of that.
Yeah, I'll run fast. Thanks, Lyndon. While Lyndon has touched on who Fresh Pork NZ is, how critical it is to align input standards with our own welfare standards, and some key points around how the industry has been in limbo for the last 5 years, I wanted to touch on some of the science-based material, overseas comparisons, and the proposed 10-year transitional period. I reference a paper released by MPI completed in March 2025, reviewing 142 scientific papers dealing with farrowing systems and space allowance. While I won't go into the specific details, the conclusions reached, and I will quote from the executive summary, regarding farrowing systems, the literature suggests that temporary crating systems in which farrowing crate use is limited to 2 to 3 days pre-farrowing until 4 to 5 days post-farrowing, and providing sows with deformable and manipulative materials with which to build a nest allows the sow to display normal patterns of behaviour, thereby limiting sow stress while reducing peri and postnatal piglet mortality, including crushing and savaging. Regarding space allowance for grower pigs, the statistical tools available to analyse available literature provide no evidence that productivity or welfare measurements will be improved with a K-value greater than 0.03. The current minimum standard, although K values of 0.034 and 0.39 have been proposed in the literature as threshold values, below which productivity and welfare are compromised, respectively. Accordingly, we conclude that the need to display normal patterns of behaviour does not, on the evidence presently available, require increasing the minimum K value. End quote. We also want to next address farrowing crates as it relates to other countries' usage. As discussed previously, farrowing crates are essentially a way of temporarily confining the sows movement to mainly stop squashing of piglets over the first part of the life cycle. No country currently fully bans confinement, and the current proposal in front of us for limiting confinement to 7 days or 3% of a sow's time would put us in the front of the pack, even when taking into account the transitional period. Just to finish, fresh pork is accepting of the 10-year transitional period due to the state of limbo of the industry, as discussed by Lyndon, but also due to some other factors which include the time frame required for research, technologies and solutions from around the world that meet a new welfare code, planning, process change, resource consenting and building consents, which take up a significant amount of time to process and will eat into the transitional time even before any building commences. Given the scale of the costs, most farmers will need to debt fund, unlike some of the countries that we've talked about in Europe, which have provided significant support to their farmers. We don't get that support, so therefore we will debt fund this. This will take a significant amount of time to work through the process with our banks, and we're assuming that the state of the debt markets and the bank's willingness to invest in the sector in a flux of change is accepting. And also the last point is we strongly believe that the 10-year implementation period provides sufficient time to require inputs to meet our new welfare standards, which is a must if we really want to improve animal welfare and support a thriving domestic pork industry. I'll hand back to Lyndon to close before we have to take questions. Thank you.
Yeah, look, I just want to close by reiterating our support of the proposed bill. We see this bill providing positive impacts for pig welfare. However, to ensure we maximise the true welfare benefit, imported pork must meet those same New Zealand standards. Otherwise, we're ignoring the 60% pork consumed in New Zealand that currently comes from overseas. This would provide the biggest improvement in pig welfare while providing fresh pork with the confidence to progress with our investment ambitions, and we would have the confidence in marketing our New Zealand produced pork both domestically and overseas, knowing it leads the world from an animal welfare perspective as well as a New Zealand quality perspective. If this is achieved, we see positive impacts for our New Zealand industry, our New Zealand pork consumers, and New Zealand Inc. We thank the committee again for hearing our views. And
thank you, gentlemen, for having the time to come into Parliament, and I apologise for our absence again. We have 1 minute left. I just want to note that we're talking about imported pork as being somewhat different from the bill at hand, and obviously it's out of the scope of the bill, or this current bill. 30 seconds left. Someone wants to ask a question of the two wonderful gentlemen. Lead on.
Thanks, Mark. Miles here.
Miles.
I just want to ask the gentleman around the. We've been told by several submitters that Switzerland, Sweden, and Norway have banned the farrowing crates, and you're saying that's not the case. Perhaps you could expand on that a little, please.
It comes down to actually confinement, which is what a farrowing crate actually does. So while they've pulled out farrowing crates, they have not actually cut off confinement, which is what we're talking about. So that being the difference that I make in regards to that comment.
Could you expand on that, please?
It comes down to actually confinement. So they actually will still use confinement to keep the sow safe, so that the piglets don't get rolled over. So while their space at the moment is not as larger than ours, they are still actually using confinement. So to say that confinement isn't happening is not true.
Interesting. Thank you.
Can I ask up on that?
Yeah, I believe
very, very, very quickly, please.
Do you mean that they're using pens rather than crates, but they're substantially larger?
They are larger than the actual farrowing crate, correct? But they are still.
The images I've seen, they look very different.
For the ones that have said that they've banned farrowing crates, they're actually still having confinement. So that's.
Yeah. Thanks, gents. Sorry to move things along so quickly. We've just got over a dozen people to hear from before 1 o'clock. So thank you both for coming in. It's a journey, I know, and we're grateful for your time and your thoughts and ideas on a salient issue. So, gentlemen, have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Mark was really hamming it up at the end with those two. Okay, so yeah, let's okay. For starters, I don't care about blokes that want to keep pigs in crates. I just want to address this comment first. Right, my apologies in regards to Super Chat. So, Alex, there's no need to apologise. But you're talking about a really hyper-specific thing that, I mean, it's just not in my neck of the woods, so I don't really know as much about it as I'd like to really give any meaningful commentary. That's all I meant. I didn't imply that you did anything wrong. You haven't done anything wrong. It's good to talk about these things. Yeah. That's how we find out. But yeah,
fund the show.
Yeah, I mean, there's also that. But what's more important is yeah, I do like this discussion. But I need a bit more information, and Also, I am intoxicated, so my brain is not quite working at full capacity at the moment. So no, if anything, I'm sorry. But anyways, going back to the pigmen. Right, so let's talk about the farrowing crates, because I've actually got their regulations and stuff up. So farrowing crates are prohibited in Sweden, Norway, and Switzerland. There are some exceptions, however, to allow confinement of sows in certain situations to protect piglet welfare. For example, in Sweden, regulations allow the sows to have restricted movement if they display aggressive or abnormal behavior. They didn't include that part in their submission, did they?
No.
Aggressive or abnormal behavior that risk injuring piglets, but only during the piglet's first few days of life. So that's not what they said in their submission. In Norway, very restless sows may be confined for a maximum of 7 days after farrowing, and in Switzerland, the sow may be confined only in exceptional cases, such as leg weakness or if the sow injures her piglets while giving birth. So their regulations are still better than ours.
That's saying something.
And Germany is heading that way as well. So the EU is actually heading in that direction towards prohibiting farrowing crates. We should be doing the same.
Maybe that's where we should be importing our pork from.
Yeah.
Canada's
exactly.
going, actually, because Canada is very famous for pork and particularly bacon.
Yeah, the United Kingdom is actually going in that direction as well.
Well, at the moment, unless you end up getting with Nigel Farage as Prime Minister.
I'll stick him in a fucking crate. Sorry, pardon me. But that's what I think about the guy. I'm not a fan of him. He's very supportive of the likes of Vladimir Putin, and I don't like that man.
Yeah.
And also, I'm intoxicated, so I can say dumb things.
It's all right. We don't have an HR department, so I doubt you're going to get into shit with HR.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to sit there and call it for an end of the night. So just before we go, now, does that one have their... No, that... oh, yes. The local government, Auckland Council, Auckland Council Transport Governance Amendment Bill. You get your submissions in by next Sunday. And the redress of the systems of abuse and care bill by the 26th of November. No, that one's long gone. Yeah. Oh, and if you want to support me getting paid for doing deliveries, you can always order from Mushrooms.
Yes. Very good. I like Mushrooms. They sell good stuff. Sorry, that's not the advert that they're probably wanting, but that's the advert they're going to get.
We don't deliver to Ika Tahuna.
Mushrooms sells great stuff. They sell fantastic range of spices that you can put in your delicious curry alongside with your fantastic vegetables that you can also pick up from Mushrooms. Go and shop at Mushrooms.
Okay. I'm starting to learn about products I didn't know we sold.
Don't they sell spices? I'm pretty sure they do.
Yeah, but that's not. I would say it's hardly any of the stuff sold as spices. Its main product line is the imported Fiji fruit and vegetables.
I'm pretty sure they sell spices.
Yeah, they probably do. Yeah, there is stuff on that. I just know that's not the main product line. Yeah.
Anyways, they sell fantastic fruit and vegetables.
Yeah. And if you'd like to have an order delivered to Kiwi Skirt's neck of the woods, you get Thursday delivery.
Yes. Anyway, he's tired. I'm drunk. Let's call it a night.
Yep. See you guys next Sunday on the Order Paper podcast, and we'll see you then. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Thank you for watching The Order Paper, your express ticket to the New Zealand House of Representatives. Every episode, we unravel the complex world of legislation, debate, and democracy. From bills to select committees, we've got it all covered. From our team of political commentators who will dissect and explain what's happened so you can remain up to date on what's happened in the Aotearoa, New Zealand Parliament. To support our channel, you can become a Patreon member at patreon.com/It's in the Ballot. The Order Paper podcast is brought to you by It's in the Ballot Productions, live at 8 p.m.